Athan Kaliakmanis is the future of the Golden Gophers, but what could his ceiling be at this program? It's something to talk about, and we're going to discuss it today at Locked On Golden Gophers.
You are Locked On Golden Gophers.
No matter what we're going to do here, we're just going to keep rowing.
Your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
However it turns out, we're just going to keep rowing.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We're just going to keep rowing, and keep rowing.
You're listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, here to talk Golden Gophers with you. And you know what? It's a good one today. We're talking about the future of the program at the Golden Gophers, or at Minnesota. But first, be sure to subscribe to the podcast over at YouTube. Hit subscribe so you can be a part of the community. You can comment, you can like, and you can leave a review of the podcast wherever you find it on your audio platforms as well, at Spotify, at Stitcher, at Podcast or Pocket Casts, at Apple Pods, you name it. Definitely leave a 5-star review and help others find this podcast, because we're growing the community and we want all of the Gophers fans, Gophers Nation, to be in here chiming in, giving your thoughts, giving your opinions. We'll get a wine line going during the football season next year, especially for the away games. So it's going to be a good time. Make sure you don't miss out on that time. Hit subscribe, follow along, and we will get this done. Now, like I said, today we are talking about Athan Kaliakmanis, and we're talking about the ceiling that he could have. And before, it'll take us some time to really get to the true thoughts on that ceiling, but it is a ceiling that is very high. It could be one of the best in the program of all time. He could be that guy when it comes to quarterbacking. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to discuss why that opportunity really is there. But first, we have to talk about what the history of these passers has looked like, and the opportunity and what Athan has done that is special among all of the Gopher quarterbacks dating back to 1990, possibly even further ahead of that, but it's harder to dive into the game-by-game statistics themselves. We're going to get there. I'm getting ahead of myself. First, let's talk about our friends who bring you this show today, because this show is hosted by LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your 2023 goals. And you can post about your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Now, let's talk about this thing. Let's talk about Gophers passers as a whole. Now, the best passers in Gophers history, statistically, by number of yards, is Adam Weber. Then we got Tanner Morgan. Then you got Brian Capito, who's third in all-time passing yards, but he mainly did his damage from his sophomore to senior seasons. Then you've got Mitch Leidner, Corey Sauter, Asad Abdul-Khalik, Markel Fleetwood, and Ricky Foggy. Those are the top 8 when it comes to passing yards of career all time for the Golden Gophers. Then you've also got legends of lore like Tony Dungy, Sandy Stevens, who have really put the team on their back and made a name for the team, being one of the first Black quarterbacks ever to be able to play the game at the collegiate level. And Sandy Stevens and Tony Dungy, who's a legend in his own right. Now, there's more in there. I know I can't list every single quarterback that's ever played for the Gophers, but there's a number of guys in there. And you know what? I believe Athan can sit at the top of that list when it's all said and done. Now, this isn't me just gassing him up. This isn't just hyperbole. I literally think it is a strong possibility, but it all depends on how the coaching approaches and builds this game plan. It builds this offense around our young quarterback. But the opportunity is there. The time is now. Mo Ibrahim just left. Now, yes, we can still have a good run game, a very involved run game, but you've seen that Athan Kaliakmanis has that talent. He put the team on his back in Camp Randall to keep the Axe home back-to-back years. Now is the time, and Coach Fleck has discussed Athan's ability and how high they have hopes for him, and they see the talent, and we've all seen it too now. The cat's out of the bag. There's no going back. So We got to see what he can do. And you know what? With the limited opportunities that he's had playing as a redshirt freshman last year and having to start games unexpectedly because Tanner Morgan was injured, Athan is already 30th in school history when it comes to passing yards and career passing yards. If Athan cracks 3,000 passing yards in this sophomore season, in his first real year as the guy, if he can just get 3,000 yards or more, he'll already find himself in the top 10 for career passing yards. So it's definitely, the opportunity is high just by hearing that alone. Now, with 2 to 3 seasons of eligibility left on top of that, you're seeing how these things can start to add up, how these things can start to build up, and you can see that the potential is there if he gets those 2 to 3 years and if we actually find some balance in this passing game. Now, of players with at least 20 passing attempts, Athan Kaliakmanis is second in yards per attempt, only slightly behind Tanner Morgan. Athan comes in at 8.5, Tanner comes in at 8.9. That's still not anything that's crazy high. There's still room and growth and potential to get into the 9s and 10s per attempt. Now, will it be? It'll probably stay closer to that 8, but even with that 8.5 yards per attempt, you can do some special things with that. Now, on top of that, of the players with at least 50 pass attempts, Athan Kaliakmanis is the 5th quarterback rating, with only being behind Tanner Morgan, Asad Abdul-Khalik, Brian Cupido, and Travis Cole. So he's already doing things to show that special, to show those flashes, to show he can be a real guy here. But on a realistic front, Athan should be able to put his name in the upper echelon with his talent, but also with the coaches trusting in him and letting him officially play free, like we saw when they officially did against Wisconsin and in the bowl game prior to his injury. A full offseason as the guy will likely only help that cause and help the trust be instilled in this young quarterback to really let him go out there and throw the ball. But I want to talk about something more specific. I want to talk about something that Athan is one of 3 quarterbacks in the last 30 years to do. And we're going to talk about that coming up next. First, a word from our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs who bring you this show. As a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 depends on the team members you surround yourself with. And that is why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, because with LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire more qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the right skills, the right values, and the right experiences to help you achieve your goals. And LinkedIn has member profiles on their website of over 875 million member profiles to post your job in front of, including the most qualified candidates. And you can identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs with their simple hiring tools, with their ability to easily screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications, all in one platform. And you can do it fast and for free. All you have to do is go to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Again, that's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. And you can post about your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Now, Gophers fans, thank you so much for making Locked On Golden Gophers your first listen when it comes to Gophers Daily Sports. And we are back on top of this thing. We are getting you daily content. You know what? We're going to have a couple weekend shows in here too, because I got to make sure we get you those 20-ish shows a month. And we've fallen behind in this early February, but no more. We will be on track these next few weeks. We've got Daniel House coming on the show tomorrow. We've got some fun stuff to talk about. I'm going to discuss how the Big Ten will work when it comes to UCLA or USC joining later this week. Now, will that be pods? Will that be divisions? Will that be that 3-6-6 approach? And if you haven't heard of any of those, don't worry. We're going to talk about it later this week on the podcast. So that's something to tune in for. So be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of that goodness. But let's jump back into what Athan Kaliakmanis has done that has been special here with the quarterbacks in the Gophers program. And what is that thing? He's one of only 3 passers to do it since 1990. And it could be even further back than that because, as we know, the Gophers offense has never really been a passing dominated offense. But I was only really able to dive into the game by game for up to like 1995. And then we kind of did some work going back to 1990, just depending on which quarterbacks played in their first years, which quarterbacks had enough yardage or attempts in their first years. But the thing that he did that only 2 other quarterbacks have done is pass for over 300 yards in a game as a redshirt or a true freshman. Athan Kaliakmanis joins a group of only 3 now. The first being Adam Weber, who is the all-time leader in passing yards and touchdowns, I believe, at the university. Adam Weber had done it 3 times in his true freshman season versus Florida Atlantic, versus Northwestern, and versus Wisconsin. In that, the team had 5 games in which they passed for at least 30 to 40 pass attempts. They had 6 games in which they had 40 plus pass attempts, and then they had 1 game below 30 pass attempts. So he was able to go out there and have the opportunity to absolutely drop dimes, throw the ball, and do his thing. Then you move on to the second player who did it, Tanner Morgan, who did it 1 time versus Indiana. Now, the team itself had 5 games in which they had 30 to 40 passing attempts, 0 games with 40 plus, and then 8 below 30 passing attempts. And then finally, you have Athan Kaliakmanis, who did it 1 time versus the University of Wisconsin. The team had 1 game the entire 2022 season in which they had 30 to 40 passing attempts. And in that game, it was Purdue, where Athan Kaliakmanis didn't even play. And they had 0 games above 40 passing attempts, 12 games below 30 passing attempts. Athan passed for over 300 yards in his 29 attempt game. Now we're pushing towards 30. So you can see as we get to that 30 number, that money number, 30 to 35 is really a sweet spot in the ability for these quarterbacks to hit that 300-yard mark. Athan did that in 29 attempts versus Wisconsin in a high-pressure game, in a game in which you needed to bring the Axe back home, a game in which you needed help because Mo was dealing with an injury, in a game in which the pressure was on because you just came off a rival loss from Iowa. You know, you needed to try to get out there and get 9 victories again. A very, very slim chance because you lost to Iowa on the division, but a lot on the line for the Gophers, and Athan stepped up when it mattered most. Now, he only played in 4 full games the entire 2022 season, which it seemed like more, but that's just because he also had 2 games where he played about a half of the game. Nebraska, where he came in after Tanner Morgan got hurt, and then what is the other game? Oh, yeah. The other game was the bowl game. The bowl game in which he got injured in the second quarter. So only a half in both those games. And only 2 of the 4 games in which he played the entire games did he see above 20 passing attempts. Like, that is how low we weren't allowing our quarterbacks to throw the ball this year. He saw 22 pass attempts versus Penn State, in which we were down multiple scores for most of the game. And then 29 passing attempts versus Wisconsin, where he cracked that 300-yard line. Or 300-yard mark. So even with the reins held close, even with the minuscule passing attempts and the little opportunity, he found a way to get there, be special, keep the X home, and again, in a game where Mo Ibrahim was hampered. Now, just imagine what that ceiling could be, truly, if Minnesota could build this offense around Athan Kaliakmanis' skill set and let him cook. I mean, I've mentioned this before, but over the past 6 seasons of Coach Fleck, the Gophers have finished as the following for passing attempts: 125th in passing attempts in 2022. Now, remember, there's only 131 FBS schools in 2022, and prior to that, 130 for the years prior. So they were 125th, the bottom 6 in passing attempts in 2022, 127th in 2021. Again, the bottom 4. 2020, they were 102nd, still not cracking that top 100. 2019, they were 110th. 2018, they were 103rd. 2017, 125th. They've never cracked the into the top 100 teams in the nation when it comes to passing attempts. If they can shake this trend, if they can get into the 70s in attempts, maybe even just the 80s in passing attempts, and let Athan really have the opportunity to sling the ball, the sky is the limit. He can absolutely look at some of those Gophers passing records and make a name and a staple for himself as a passer in this program. Now, 30 to 35 passing attempts should not be a difficult feat for him to accomplish for the Gophers team to give him each game. Even if the rushing attempts drop from the 42 to 45 we've seen over the past 4 years down to the 37-ish range, that's still a fantastic opportunity for the run game, and you can still be a fantastic team known as a running first team. Plus, you can get the running backs involved in the passing game. So they're still getting extra touches. They're still getting those looks. They're still getting incorporated. It doesn't make us different when it comes to selling ourselves for running backs in the future in recruiting. Now, on the plus side, Matt Simon has coached or been the play caller in 2 games for the Gophers so far in his time here. And one of those was the Outback Bowl versus Auburn in 2019-2020, where we did see 30 passing attempts and 45 rushing attempts. Now, we had a total of 31 points scored, so you can see how you can still get that higher rushing attempts, incorporating the run game, but still give your quarterback 30 passing attempts, 35 passing attempts in that range to let him do his thing. Now, he also was the play caller in the Pinstripe Bowl, where we only had 16 passing attempts and 31 rushing attempts. They scored 28 points, but they had major yardage and some scoring help from the defense and the special teams, in which the ball wasn't really in the offense's hands at all times. So it's hard to take anything truly away from that game. But they came out in the first and second quarter, letting Athan throw the ball 9 times within his time before he got injured. So it looked like the game plan was to really incorporate that passing game. So hopefully we really actually see that moving forward. Now, we know the opportunity at hand, but man, oh man, what could that ceiling truly be? That is what we have to talk about. Coming up next. First, a message to you from our friends over at Built Bar. You gotta try it if you haven't already. It's covered in 100% real chocolate. They've got flavors galore out there. My new favorite, and I might be coming back to this favorite, but it's cherry barcia. And guess what? You can try these bars not for free, but you can get them out at a store near you now. You don't have to do it online. You can check them out at Sam's Club or at Walmart. You can get a 4-pack. You can get a 13-pack, depending on if you're just trying it out for the first time or you just can't get enough and you have to get more. But if you do want to order them online and you do want to get that 15% off, then you can head to built.com and use promo code LOCKEDON15 for 15% off your order. And that's not a one-time thing, folks. Go back, get yourself some more, restock, and use LOCKEDON15 each time to get 15% off your Built Bars. They've got crazy flavors: churro, peanut butter brownie, almond, raspberry cheesecake. Like I said, my favorite, cherry barcia. They've got mint brownie and much, much more. Every flavor, different strokes for different folks. So definitely head on over to built.com, use promo code LOCKEDON15 to get that 15% off, or check them out at Sam's Club and Walmart. All right, Gophers fans, we're wrapping this thing up with what I truly think that ceiling could be for Athan Kaliakmanis, the future of this program. And what is that ceiling? What is that bar? Well, I think Athan can absolutely, definitely pass for over 3,000 yards in each of the next 3 seasons. Now, if that happens, he would be at least second of all time when it comes to passing yards, possibly first, depending on the full totals of each year. Now, people might be like, whoa, can he actually do that? Like, can he actually go above 3,000 yards each time? Well, if you look at his yards per attempt, which we're sitting at 8.5 yards per attempt right now, so we'll run with that number. Now, split the difference of them passing. Like I said, we're looking for 30 to 35 attempts a game. Let's split the difference. We'll go with 32 passing attempts per game at that 8.5 yards per passing attempt. even running with that average and shift to the more balanced offense approach, you're getting about 272 passing yards per game. Now, with that, all that together in a 13-game season, that's 3,536 yards over the course of 13 games. So even if you want to be a Debbie Downer, you want to say, you know what if the Gophers don't make a bowl game? What if they don't get to a bowl game and they don't have that 13th game? Even in 12 games, it's above 3,000 at the 3,264 mark. So you're talking about if you give this guy about 32 passing attempts per game at his average yards per attempt, so he doesn't have an absolutely baller game or anything like that, he's going to break 3,000 yards each of the next couple seasons that he has out there. Now, solely with the talent on one hand, you can assume that it is reasonable. And in all honesty, Athan's yards per attempt could go up, could be even higher. And that's with his limited opportunity. So if you give him more opportunity, his yards per attempt can go up and these numbers could be even better. Or again, if you just give him more attempts to get there, it's not an unrealistic feat for him to do this. He can really rewrite the Gophers record books just by doing this. Now, so you're talking about a 3,500 year, maybe a 3,200 year, and then a 3,000 year. You do all that, you add that up together, plus the almost 1,000 he had in that redshirt freshman year, and he's going to be the school leader when it comes to passing yards. That's the opportunity at hand and the ability that is there. Now you pair that with the increased success of the passing game and the balance to the passing game, and you could see yourself increasing the opportunity in recruiting interest to come here and be a part of a passing offense. You could see more quarterbacks want to play in this system because look at what he just did. Oh, the Gophers can do it. Like, the more you instill that foundation, the more you let it grow, the more you let him succeed, the better it is for recruiting moving forward. And like I said, it doesn't run away running backs from wanting to be here, because if you continue to give them 37 attempts-ish a game, and you can continue to give them those extra looks in the passing game, it should make running backs want to continue to come here too, because they can dominate on the ground and still get work in the passing game, which helps them if they want to shoot for the pro level to be able to flash that opportunity catching the ball. And we've seen that in this 2023 class. We've seen multiple pass catchers flip late in the game after we've seen a little special something from Athan Kaliakmanis. Now we've got 3 pass catchers coming into this 2023 true freshman class, and we've got 2 to 3 pass catchers coming in from the 2023 transfer class, on top of some players returning. The depth is there. You're seeing the opportunity. So if you let those guys thrive, you could continue to see that success in the recruiting game. All I got to say, Minnesota fans, is get ready for a special ride with a special quarterback talent here in Minnesota. He's getting the hype, he's getting the love here in Minnesota, but that could rise to a conference level, to a mutual respect from conference opponents, if we let this kid throw the ball. But all of this, every single bit of this potential we've talked about, hinges on the coaching staff and finding a way to let him thrive. It looks as though the team is ready to do that, and the offense are ready to commit to him based on the impact transfers they've brought in, based on the recruiting class that they've brought in. It looks like they're ready to make passing more of a focus. And that will be a testament, a true testament to it all. Because to not do it, to not capitalize on the return of Crab and Spanford, to not utilize the running backs in the pass catching chops, to not reap the reward of a highly talented quarterback and one of the highest recruits in Minnesota recruiting, who wants to be the guy here and has been on record saying that multiple times through this offseason, who is stuck here through 3 offensive coordinator changes. Coach Simon, you have to capitalize on this talent so we can make it not a 4th offensive coordinator for Athan Kaliakmanis. We got to get it done. We got to do that. The future is bright with the Magic 8 Ball, the Greek gunslinger, or whatever nickname you want to insert. Regardless, the time is now, and Athan Kaliakmanis is going to be a special one. That's it for Locked On Golden Gophers today. Tomorrow, we're talking with our friend Daniel House. We're going to talk some O-line. We're going to talk some of the coaching additions. So definitely be sure to hit subscribe and tune in. And later this week, we're going to talk about how the Big Ten could shake up with the additions of UCLA and USC and how that scheduling could look. I'll see you then. This is Kane Rob signing off. Row the boat, Sky Umar.